Hello everyone. In today's video we're going to be doing is, could snakes survive on Skull Island? Now, these ones going to be included are the extinct and living snakes. So, let's get started. Australian scrub python, and for its diet, they prey on range of variety of small mammals, birds, and reptiles to wallabies. And for its environment, they would live in Conway rainforests and various forests and more densely vegetated parts. Well, they could survive on that island. Banded water cobra. Now for its prey. They prey on exclusively on fish. It may also prey on frogs, toads, and other amphibians. And for its environment, largely of aquatic species, and rarely is found far away from water. They lived in lakes and rivers and forested and well-wooded savanna terrain, where cover is significant, most commonly along lowland forested, bushy, or wooded banks of lakes, rivers, and streams. But these ones, they never ate mammals or birds. Well, they feed on aquatic prey, so they could survive. Boomslang, and for its diet, they would eat chameleons and other arboreal lizards, frogs, and occasionally small mammals, birds, and eggs from nesting birds and reptiles, a lot of which it swallows whole. The boomslangs will also feed on other snakes, including cannibalizing members of its own species. During cool weather, the boomslang bromates for short periods, often curling up inside the enclosed nest of weaver bird. And for its environment, they are excellent climbers and is highly arboreal, living mainly in forested areas, shrubs, savannas, lowland forests, and in grasslands. But the boomslang is not restricted to trees, and it can often be found ground hunting, feeding, or taking shelter. It will occasionally hide underground when the weather is harsh. Burmese python. Their diet consisted primarily of birds and mammals, and includes amphibians and reptiles. But, as an invasive species in Florida, they eat small mammals including foxes, rabbits, and raccoons. And they would even hunt pigs or goats. They are known to have attacked and eaten alligators and adult deer in Florida. And for its environment, they lived in grasslands, marshes, swamps, rocky foothills, woodlands, river valleys, and jungles with open clearings. And it is a good climber and an excellent swimmer. Yeah, they could survive on Skull Island, for sure. Central African egg-eating snake. As it suggests, they would prey on asleep or most likely to leave their eggs unguarded. They eat eggs. And environment. They prefer lowland forest at altitudes of approximately 2,000 1,150 meters. Yeah, I could see them survive on Skull Island. They would eat and raid bird's nest. Central Australian carpet python. And for its diet, unknown. And for its habitat environment, lived in desert, savanna, woodland forests, and freshwater wetlands, preferring to inhabit foothills, ridges, and rocky outcroppings. Children's python, and for its diet, consists of reptiles, birds, and small mammals, practically microbats, which it catches by dangling from caves. And for its environment and habitat, they lived in forests, savannas, scrubland, desert, grassland, and freshwater wetlands. Dinocystrodon, and its diet consists of small mammals like rats and mice, birds, toads, frogs, and lizards. And for its habitat, they inhabit high forested mountains up to 1,350 meters, but has been found in low coastal regions 100 meters. It prefers lower mountain slopes or rocky hills with small valleys. Eastern diamondback rattlesnake. Feed they would prey on rabbits, mice, lizards, birds, and also large insects. And for its environment and habitat, they would live in upland dry pine forest, flat woods, sand hills, and coastal maritime grass sage, marshes, and swamp forests, cypress swamps. During dry periods, in areas, they would use burrows made by gophers and gopher tortoises during the summer and winter. Eastern green mamba. And for its diet, they would primarily eat birds and their eggs, and small mammals, including bats. It is believed they also eat arboreal lizards. But they have natural predators: mongooses, snake eagles, and genets, and hornbills and other snakes prey on juveniles. And for its environment and habitat, they primarily live on their arboreal, living in trees, and usually well camouflaged in the foliage. And its habitat is limited to tropical rainforests and coastal lowlands. And the emerald tree boa, and for its diet, consists primarily of small mammals, but they have been known to eat smaller bird species, as well as lizards and frogs. Due to extremely slow metabolism of this species, it feeds much less often than ground-dwelling species, and meals may be several months apart. And they would also eat rodents and marsupials, frogs. And for its environment, they will live in the rivers and jungles. Forest cobra. Forest cobra prey includes amphibians, fish, other snakes, monitor lizards, and other lizards, bird eggs, rodents, and taking mud skippers. And for its environment and habitat, they would live in tropical and subtropical rainforest regions, and also inhabit mangroves, ravine forests, lowland forest, and moist savannas. Gaboon viper. Because of their large, heavy body size, the adults have no trouble eating prey as large as fully grown rabbits. When prey happens by, they strike from a single angle. They can quickly reposition their fangs if they happen to miss or strike an unsuitable area of their prey. They would eat amphibians, mammals, birds. Their more unlikely prey items, like tree monkeys, porcupines, and small woyal antelope. And for their habitat environment, they would live in bushes and in thickets, forests, and nearby grasslands. And they may also be found in swamps. Gigantophis. They would prey on large mammals and reptiles, like proboscidean peak-sized relative of elephants like Boetherium, ancient crocodiles, and other large marine snakes. And for their environment, they would live in Paratethys Sea, green bush viper, and their diet consists of small mammals, although there are some cases of cannibalism within the species. They are nocturnal hunters, and its coloring allows it to blend in with its environment and ambush small prey and feed on. It is equipped with two front hollow fangs, through within it ejects its prey with hemotoxic venom, rendering it defenseless. And for their environment, mostly rainforests, preferring relatively low and thick flowering bushes. Indian egg-eating snake. Diet. They feed exclusively on bird eggs. And for their habitat, preferred forest and scrubland at altitudes of 40 to 10,000 meters. Indian python. They would feed on mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. And for their habitat environment, they lived in right-of-way range, including grasslands, swamps, marshes, rocky foothills, woodlands, open forests, and river valleys. And it would hide in abandoned mammal burrows, hollow trees, dense water reeds, and mangrove thickets. Indochinese spitting cobra. For their diet, they would feed on rodents, toads, and other snakes. For their habitat, lowlands, hills, plains, and woodland. Japanese pit viper. And their diet. It is typically an ambush predator that used excellent camouflage to hide itself in vegetation or leaf litter. It eats mainly on rodents, but also small birds, lizards, and insects. And for their habitat, including swamps, marshes, meadows, open woodlands, rocky hillsides, and montane rock outcroppings. King cobra. King cobra is an apex predator and dominant over other snakes, except large pythons. Its diet consists primarily of other snakes and lizards, including Indian cobra, banded kite, rat snake, pythons, and etc. And they observed swallowing clouded monitor, small vertebrates like birds, lizards. And I could not find anything information if they ever hunted mammals, small ones. And for their environment and habitat. The king cobras lived in they prefer to live near water sources like lakes, rivers, and can adapt to many different ecosystems, including forests, foothills, and coastlines. They also been found in bamboo thickets, agricultural areas, and mangrove swamps. Large-scaled pit viper. For their diet, they feed mainly on frogs, lizards, small birds, and rodents. And for their habitat, they are slow-moving arboreal. Nocturnal snakes prefer rainforests. Matsoya, in its diet, prey on small animals like dinosaurs or horses in the Cenozoic. And for their environment, they would live in alluvial plains, floodplains, semi-arid, dry and wet seasons. The Madagascar giant hog-nosed snake. For their diet, they would eat various small reptiles, frogs, toads, birds, and their nestlings and eggs. Smaller snakes may eat it occasionally. Small mammals like rodents, tenrecs, or mouse lemurs, and their offspring. But they have natural predators like birds of prey, mongooses, and even fossa. Malayan pit viper and its habitat and diet prefer coastal forests, bamboo thickets, unused and overgrown farmland, orchards, and they would eat rats and mice. Mole snake, and for their diet, primarily on moles, rodents, and other small mammals. For this reason, it is considered useful for natural control of problem rodents. They would also eat eggs of seafowl, eggs of penguins, frogs, and for their habitat, they would live in a variety of scrublands, grasslands, and even in abandoned burrows. Northern cottonmouth. For their diet includes mammals, birds, amphibians, fish, eggs, insects, and other snakes, small turtles, small alligators, and even cannibalism. Their natural predators: snapping turtles, American alligators, owls, hawks, herons, cranes, and egrets. And for their habitat, they would live in creeks, streams, marshes, swamps, and ashore of ponds and lakes. Shallow lakes, sluggish streams. Impeli python. They would feed on birds in fruiting trees, and, and it's speculated to specialize in eating birds. Adults prey on medium to large mammals like possums and macropods. Captive specimens eat birds and rodents. They are nocturnal and is an ambush predator that remains motionless for long periods. And for their habitat, they would live in overhangs and caves, woodlands, heathland, and open rocky plains. Okinawan viper. In their diet feed on rodents and other vertebrates in open areas, especially in sugar cane fields, sometimes near human habitation. And for their habitat, they lived in open woodland, forests, mountain, fields, streams, ponds, and other water sources. Olive python, and their diet consists of birds, ducks, spinifex, pigeons, mammals, rock wallabies, fruit bats, and other reptiles. Prefer to lie in wait next to animals' trail to ambush its prey. Alternatively, it is a strong swimmer and also hunts in water holes, striking at prey from underwater. And they're also known to prey on monitor lizards and juvenile crocodiles. And for their environment and habitat, they will live in rocky areas, gorges, and especially rocky areas near water source, typically sheltered in sod in caves and rocky crevices. They would also have been found in hollow logs and burrows under rocks. Paleophis. Now for their diet, they would eat marine reptiles such as mosasaurs and mammals in the Cenozoic. It had a concerningly faster metabolism and growth rate than martyr snakes. And for their habitat, they would live in estuaries and these ones were specialized for aquatic animals. So, there are no mosasaurs in Skull Island, and they will have to look out for sharp rocks just they don't get injured. They would prey on fish and fur seals. Pterospinus. Now for their diet, they would likely prey on fish and mollusks. And their environment and habitat. Marine coastal environment. Reticulated python is an ambush predator, usually waiting until prey wanders within strike range before seizing it in its coils and killing by constriction. Its natural diet includes mammals and occasionally birds. Small mammals such as rats, other rodents, bats, shrews, primates, and etc. And for their habitat, they would live in rainforests, woodlands, and nearby grasslands, nearby streams and lakes. They are excellent swimmers. Rhinoceros viper. And for their diet, they would feed on small mammals, frogs, even fish. And for their habitat, they lived mainly in forested areas, rarely ventured into woodlands. Its range is restricted than gaboon vipers. Sonachet. Like early snakes, Sonachet did not have wide gape seen in boids pythons. Therefore, it could not consume prey large as that which modern snakes can. Living snakes have narrow gaps, have diets that are limited to smaller animals such as ants, termite larvae, and segmented worms, worm lizards, now for the holotype specimen. The snake was coiled around the crushed egg, which the hatchling may have exited from. The eggs were laid in a nest structure that was not preserved, but was covered in loose sediment or vegetation. The eggs were too large for Sonachet to consume, but the snake would have able to break an egg open and consume its contents. Similar to the living Mexican burrowing python. Sonachet is likely to have had nest poultering strategy, feeding strategy, It is possible that they could consume a large variety of prey items, including eggs of theropods and smaller reptiles. And for their environment, they will live in semi-arid and tropical humid environments. Southern American bushmaster for their prey primarily on rats, mice, birds, and reptiles, and may occasionally eat in spiny rats are favored prey items. Other prey items include porcupines, squirrels, opossums, squirrel monkeys, and frogs. Now for their habitat environment. They lived in forests, prefer hilly and mountainous regions. Southwestern carpet python. For their diet, they would eat geckos, house mice, birds, and marsupials. And their habitat, coastal areas, woodlands, heathland, and semi-arid areas. Spiny bush viper. Its environment lived in rainforest, woodlands, and thickets near reed and swamps. And for their diet and their prey includes mammals, frogs, lizards, and sometimes birds. Sometimes hunts for mammalian prey on the ground. Sunbeam snake. And their diet varied, consisting primarily frogs, reptiles, including other snakes and small mammals. And their habitat, forest clearings. Titanoboa, their environment and habitat. They lived in warm and humid greenhouse climate, coastal plains, tropical forests, large river systems. And for their diet, initially, Titanoboa was thought to have acted much like a modern anaconda based on its size and the environment it lived in. But researchers suggest that Titanoboa display more of a piscivorous diet rather than eating reptiles, mammals, and birds. So, it is a piscivore, mainly fish. Yeah, they could adapt and survive, but they would have to compete with other animals that lived in the swamps. Pteranodon, they have to watch out for. Vasuki. Now, for their diet, they would prey on catfish, turtles, and crocodilians. And for their environment, They would live in back swamp marsh. Western green mamba. For their diet, they would feed on birds and small mammals, including rodents and squirrels. And for their habitat, they lived in coastal tropical rainforests, thickets, and woodland regions. Wannabe, and for their prey, includes kangaroo, wallabies, and for their habitat and environment. Relatively cool and arid regions, forests, open woodlands, grasslands, shrublands, and scrublands, and natural sun trap besides the local waterhole. Yalangor, its diet, medium to large animals, and for its habitat, they dwelled at least partly underground. And that's it for every snake from extinct and living snakes. And what do you think? Which of these snakes will survive or go extinct? I'd like to hear from you in the comments down below. Like and subscribe, and see you later, guys.